Let's add some more detail to the rear diffuser here. We can see if we take a look at our images that these tailpipes here are actually pulled out a bit further than what we have them. So we're going to go back to our model, press tab to go into edit mode, and we're going to right click on one of these vertices on this right tailpipe and then hold shift and right click on this left tailpipe. Any vertex is fine. Then do select linked, press 3 to go into side view, and just pull these out a bit more than what they are. Try to match the reference basically. So something like this, I guess, it's going to be fine. And next we can see we have these little fins here which will direct the air through these channels. That's what the purpose of these is. So we have this fin here that the center of the fin is kind of a little bit left of the right edge of this muffler here. So we want to set up our geometry so that we have a line here to make this fin. So we're going to use this line that's already existing. So we're going to alt right click and get this line. C for circle select, middle mouse to deselect this top point because we don't want to move that point. We're going to go control 1 to go to back view, and we want to line it up a little bit left of the edge of this. So we're going to do Q to edge slide and line it up a little bit to the left of the edge of this. So this looks pretty good. And this other one we're going to want to not really move over to this, but we want to move it over more than what it is to try to make it more centered between this point and this point. So we're going to alt right click. Again, we're going to C for circle select, middle mouse to deselect this top vertex because we don't want to move that. Control 1 for back view, and we're going to press Q and edge slide this basically halfway between here and here. So now what we'd like to do is we want to curve this part better, and we also want to match the bottom up better to how it's supposed to be. If we look at our side view image, we can see that the bottom is basically supposed to be straight, and it's pretty angled all the way down until this wheel arch right here. So what we want to do is alt right click on this bottom part, and we want to just bring this in until it's basically a straight line from here to here. And we also want to create a better curve because you can see it actually curves out, and right now ours is kind of not the best curve, so we want to try to fix that as best we can now that our vertices are in place. So you can see that our curve is kind of all wobbly and not the best. So we want to try to select these vertices. There's going to be 3 in each area, so just make sure you get all 3 whenever you're moving these, and you just want to try to curve this better. So to select these, what I'm doing, I'm just selecting one with right click, C for circle select, and get all 3 of them, and then you can move it on the y-axis until you can curve it better. Something more like this. It's not really as curved as I want it to be, so I'm just going to keep curving this slightly until I have a shape that's a bit better than what it was before. So once we have that, now what we want to do is take another look at the reference. This fin on the left kind of starts a little bit lower down than where this top crease is. So we want some geometry a little bit lower down so we can make this fin in the correct position. So we're going to press Ctrl R add in a loop cut, just left click and drag this up until it's a little bit down below where that this crease would be, so that we can make our little fin thing. But you'll notice on the side we kind of get this like shading thing here. It's fine that we increase the visibility of this crease because we want it to be a nice crease like that. Like you can see that this is kind of a nice crease. But we don't really want it right here on the wheel arch because you can see that it doesn't really, there's nothing really there on the wheel arch. So we want to select these two and then press Q and slide this down some to get rid of that creasing point there. And right now I'm just going to save this. And actually what we want to do instead, because by doing that we got this other crease line, so we're just going to press tab, and instead of doing this we're going to just select this vertex, hold shift, select that one, alt M at last, and we're just going to merge these up to here so that we only have this one crease here. Another thing that we're going to do is we're actually just going to get rid of this edge, this whole edge loop, because like I said, it's basically straight right here, so we can just make it perfectly straight. So we're going to do alt right click, get this edge loop, press delete, dissolve edges. And another thing we want to do is create this beveling effect that's here on this edge. And to do that, we're just gonna Control R, add in a loop cut here. And then what we're gonna do in order to, because you can see now, you can kind of see that, but it doesn't really look totally correct. And that's because as far as I can tell, like it's kind of, this bottom part's pulled down a little more than this other part. That's why you can see like this highlight on it. And we don't have that on our model. So to kind of create that effect, we're going to go to face select, and we're going to select all of these faces here. So just select one, hold shift, select the rest. And we're just going to pull them down a little on the Z-axis. And then we should start to get more of that effect that we saw. But one other thing I wanted to fix is that if you look at this from the back view, it kind of curves up like this, and we don't really want that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to select the two vertices that are down here. So select one and C for circle select to get the other one. Make sure you're in wireframe by pressing Z. And just bring these down some so that they're not curving up like they were, they're more straight. So we have something more like this instead. And we'll just go ahead and save this. So now what we want to do is to create this little fin here, and it's going to start from here and then it's going to end down here. It doesn't go all the way to the back, like you can see. It starts and ends, like it starts here and then it ends like right at the end of the wheel arch, which would be right here, you know. So this is where it should end, and you can see that from here as well. It ends right here, which would be in line with the bottom of the wheel arch. So in order to create this, we're just going to do Control R and left click and drag this in until it's roughly the thickness that we want it. Something like this. Then we're going to go to face select, select this face, press E to extrude, right click to cancel. And we want to move this according to the normal. Right now it's on global, we want to change this to normal. And then we can drag this blue arrow and you can see how it's moving differently than it would normally. It's based on the face normal right now. We can change this back to global once we have something we like, and go back to vertex select. Select this vertex, shift select this one, Alt M at center, and do the same for these two vertices. Alt M at center. Now we're getting that triangular shape that you can see in the reference. You have this triangular shape. But perhaps we should move this up some, maybe over a little. We can kind of try to use this reference, but I actually don't think this is all that correct. Like, it looks like this does not match up as best as it should, at least according to these references. This triangle part's pretty small, and the reference has it actually pretty large in comparison. And it also has this part curved, even though it really probably shouldn't be. So we're just going to go with what we think it should be, so something like this. But you can see the shading's not the best, and it doesn't really look like this yet. And that's mostly because we have a bevel on this side, so these edges need to be beveled, and on this other side it's also beveled. So in order to give it more of a realistic look, we're going to have to use a bevel. So in edit mode, we're going to go to edge select, and we're going to select one of these edges, hold shift, and then select all these, so you should have these 4 edges. We're going to do Control B to bevel, and do a fairly small bevel, not too small, but something like this. And now when we look at it, we're starting to get that shape that we want. So I'm going to go to vertex select, because when we did that bevel we created some n-gons here, and we would like to remove them. So select this vertex, hold shift, select this one, J to join. We're going to do the same on this other side. And we're also going to do the same on the top. We're just selecting 2 vertices and then J to join. That didn't get rid of all the n-gons yet, but it did get rid of some of them. So now we can see what we have for a result. Looking pretty decent. But one thing you'll notice is that like the thickness here is pretty small, and then it kind of has like a V shape where it kind of goes outward in that direction. And it does the same on the bottom where it's more of an upside down V shape. So we want to move these over like that and do the same on the bottom. So we're going to take these vertices here and these vertices here. Well, actually we're going to do them one at a time. So we're going to get these vertices and move them over slightly, and then we'll do these vertices and move them over slightly, so that we have more of a shape like this. You just want to try to match the distance. I think I may have moved these a little too far. So we have something like that. Now we're going to do something similar on the bottom, but the bottom actually looks like it has a larger shape. Like this is a smaller V, and this would be a larger V, upside down of course, but it looks like these are further apart than the top ones are. So something like this where there's more distance here than there is here. So something like that would be a bit more accurate, I think. So that's looking pretty good. We do still have n-gons. Like down here we have 5 vertices. So we can select these two and do Alt-M at center. And you may want to reposition this, like press G twice and bring it over a little, and G twice and bring it down a little, so that it's more closer to what we want. And we're going to do the same here. Select these two, Alt-M at center, bring it down a little, bring it over a little. So we still have a nice clean result, and we got rid of that n-gon down here. It's now a quad. Of course, we have the same problem at the top, so we're going to have to select these two, Alt-M at center. Again, you want to drag it over some and down some, or whatever direction you feel you need to move it in. Do the same here, merge them at the center, drag it over some, maybe up a little. So now we're getting this nice clean result that looks a lot similar to what we have over here. One thing we can do, it's actually not looking like it's much of a problem, but if you wanted to, you could space these out a bit better. So you can select this vertex, G twice, slide it over, and do the same with this other bottom vertex, just so that they're not too close and causing any shading issues. But right now it actually looks quite nice, I think. Like we have this nice edge like we're supposed to have, and these edges look very clean and nice as well. So we still have to make the other one, but for now we're gonna save what we have. So go to File and Save. Now what we want to do is try to make this look a little better. This part of the car, we really didn't add any bevels or anything to make this look the way it really should. So what we're going to do is press Tab and go to Face Select. We're going to select these two faces. Select one, hold Shift, select the other. We're going to press I to inset and just do a decent inset, something like this, and then it'll make you look like that. But that's not really the look that I'm going for. Like, this is a little bit more smoothed out. It's not really flat like this. So to kind of fix that, I'm going to do Control R, left click, and then drag it over to basically here, so that this line can meet up where this line would be. And we're going to delete all these other parts that we don't need. So we're going to go to Vertex Select, Z for wireframe, C for circle select, and remove these two from our selection. Then do Delete, Dissolve Edges. Now you can see we still have this edge here. We're going to select this one, hold Shift, select this one, Alt-M at last. Now what we can do is Control R, left click, and drag this over. Do the same thing, make it so that the distance here will be similar to what this is. Then select this one, hold Shift, select this one, Alt-M at last. And now you can see we have some nice smooth shading, a nice gradient here from a lighter to a darker color. So this looks a lot better than it did previously. So we can save this by going to File and Save. Another thing I kind of wanted to do is add a little more realism to this area here. So what we're going to do is do Alt and right click to get this whole loop. But you can see we're missing a vertex down here, so we're going to Shift and click on this. Then we're going to press F to make a face, I to inset. This again is going to add a nice little bevel to this area, which was missing previously. Then we're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, and bring this back to give it some depth like it would have, of course, in the real world. And then press delete and choose faces to delete that face that we created. So now we have some depth to this right here, and it also has this nice beveled edge. So that's looking pretty good. And we can add in some detail to the outer part too to make it a little more real. So we're going to do Alt right click on this, E to extrude, right click to cancel. But since we can't use inset this time, it's going to be a little more tricky. What we're going to do instead is press Z for wireframe, C for circle select, and we're going to start deselecting all these top ones. Make sure you get the middle vertex as well, so you shouldn't have anything other than the side vertices here. And we're just going to drag it out slightly. Then we're going to do Alt right click again to make sure that we have the correct vertices selected. C for wireframe, C for circle select, and now we're going to deselect all the ones that we just moved, and now we have nothing but the top vertices. And we're going to do the same thing, we're just going to drag this up a little, and that'll do something similar to what the inset would have done, just in the opposite direction, so that we have a little more distance outward all the way around. So we can see this vertex here is kind of hiding a bit, so we're going to select it and just pull it out a little till it's not hiding anymore. And now we can Alt right click on this top edge here, E to extrude, right click to cancel, and then bring it back so that it has more depth like it would in the real world. So it's looking a lot nicer, it looks a bit more realistic here. We do have the stuff on the bottom that we can get rid of, but for now this is looking a lot better than it was before in terms of realism, I think. So we're going to go to File and Save.